Are there special moments of the day when prayer is more likely to be answered? The ancients certainly felt so, and some of their traditions regarding some specific moments when it was especially auspicious to offer prayers were passed on to later civilizations. And we'll be looking at this in this short video at a collection of sources from Jewish and Muslim manuscripts and printed books concerning the belief that when a certain star, which we now identify as Beta Cassiopea, crossed the meridian, that was a time to offer prayer, and prayer offered at that time would almost certainly be answered. Now, this project of mine began some years ago when I was systematically cataloging manuscripts, and I came across a group of manuscripts written by a certain Yitzchak ibn Sal, a Karaite Jew who lived in Istanbul around in the 18th century. These are approximate. I have no precise biographical details concerning this man, but I do know that he had a great interest in astronomy and astrology. He copied out many books. He was a great student of Abraham ibn Ezra, but he also copied out all sorts of interesting bits and pieces that he found in other manuscripts, including those that he probably saw in Arabic script. And one of them, it was this passage and accompanying table that describe the segulot, the chawas, the special properties of the star Kaf al-Khadib when it culminates, when it crosses a meridian, and has a table for computing this precise moment for the coordinates of Istanbul. So here is just my translation of that passage that's written on top of the table. I've seen it fit to copy here this table, which I found in the name of the ancient scholars of Arabia. It's not original, and it's not contemporary. It's something that was reported in the name of the ancient scholars. It is a table for Kaf al-Khadib. They say that when this star is on the meridian, every prayer and supplication that is offered will be heard. And Abraham ibn Ezra wrote in his Bible commentary that whatever is prescribed at that moment for medication will be effective. So here I just pasted in the first part of the Wikipedia entry on Beta Cassiopea. You can see that it's here on the map on the right-hand side of the screen. You see that W, that's the constellation Cassiopea. We used to call it the Westinghouse W. It's that way easily recognized in the northern part of the sky. And you can see here at the tip of the W, where I'm drawing this arrow, a circle that is a star that has been encircled and labeled with the Greek letter beta. That's the star that we're talking about here. That's called Kaf al-Khadib, but it has undergone, has been known by different names and been associated with different constellations through the generations, because these things have changed as astronomers have sort of regrouped and remapped the heavens. I'll just read for you here from the bottom paragraph on your screen. Originally, the pre-Islamic Arabic term al-Kaf al-Khadib, the stained hand, referring to the stain that is with henna, the dye that now we're famous for being put in the hands of the bride at the bride's coming out party, whatever you call it, among certain Jews and Muslims from the Middle East. Anyway, this star referred originally to the 5 stars comprising the W of the constellation Cassiopea and depicted a hand stained with henna. The term was abbreviated and somehow came to signify Beta Cassiopea alone. The old stain was part of an asterism called Thuraya, stretching from the Pleiades. Nowadays, Thuraya in Arabic is considered to be just the 7 stars, the 7 sisters of the Pleiades. But in ancient times, it covered a much greater swath of the sky, including Cassiopea. So you can see that there could have been some confusion in knowing precisely what star was involved, and we'll see some of the confusion towards the end of this video. Well, my next step was to see was there any other evidence I could find for this tradition that prayer would be answered when Beta Cassiopea culminated, or any particular interest in the culmination of Beta Cassiopea. And I found some important information in the huge encyclopedic and authoritative work of David King in synchrony with the heavens. He has a couple of tables for the culmination of Beta Cassiopea. Now, David King is interested in timekeeping, and he brings these tables as sort of an alternative way of keeping time at night, when, of course, before clocks were invented or even after clocks were invented, astronomers needed some precise way of measuring time at night, and they could use the stars at night the way we use the sun in the day, and take as a sort of a focal point the culmination of a star such as Beta Cassiopea. And he found a few tables for that. He didn't really look into the possible religious implications, but the information he has brought is valuable. We see here he has one table for Istanbul. I remind you that that's the place where Isaac ibn Sahal lived, and the coordinates for which he drew up his table. But he also has a table for Mashhad, the holy city in Iran. And this table stands out. Again, Professor King thinks it's solely limited to timekeeping, but we'll see in a minute that there are Shia sources which fit the time and place of this table for Mashhad that support or confirm the report of Ibn Sal concerning the properties of the star Kaf al-Khadi Beta Cassiopea, and its culmination being a propitious time for offering prayer. Well, I'm no expert on Shia Islam, but I did find some texts associated with a book called the Tukhfa from the 18th century, which discuss these properties. And here I've sort of a screenshot put on here with marking off in red the Arabic text. And the next slide I'll read the translation that I've prepared. So the passage reads, I found in one of the books of the astrologers, in the name of Abu Abdullah, the topic of supplication and requesting one's necessities from Allah at 4 times. 3 that have been mentioned earlier on, and not going to them here, they're not relevant to our topic. And the 4th being when Kaf al-Khadib reaches mid-heaven, that is to say, when it culminates. The author of the Tukhfa mentioned this as well. It matches what is said in the name of the ancient scholars concerning the choice of propitious moments of supplication. So again, we have here a source contemporary with Ibn Sal, but again, referring back to the ancient scholars. So somehow this is an ancient tradition which has, for whatever reason, re-emerged in the 18th century. Well, who are these ancient scholars, and where could these writers learned about them? Well, one important source, which is really interesting, is a treatise in its own right and has not really been studied well, is an epistle by the 9th century Al-Kindi, the philosopher of the Arabs, one of the first major agent or man responsible for transmitting the traditions of the ancients, mostly Greek but not exclusively Greek, to the Arabic-speaking world. And he wrote a treatise which he called in Arabic, Risalat al-Kindi fi tahrir waqt yurja fi ijabatul dua, but in English, determining the moment when one may hope for the prayer to be answered from the standpoint of astrology. It's actually has a whole list of astrally propitious moments. Al-Kindi didn't believe this stuff. He didn't. He says at the beginning that I'm not reporting this stuff because I'm recommending it. It's just I've been asked to share my knowledge of the ancient traditions, so I'm doing that. But we're glad that he did. Now, this treatise was published from a single manuscript by the late Muhsin Mahdi in an Arabic volume, actually a festschrift in honor of Ibrahim Mazkur, one of the great scholars of, I guess, 2 generations ago now. But he published the Arabic original, and no one has done anything with it since. I have since found 2 more manuscripts, which clarify some issues and make some issues even muddier. But here is the relevant portion for Kaf al-Khadib, and I'll present in the very next slide my translation. So I am translating here from Mahdi's edition of Al-Kindi's text. Some of them, that is to say, these ancient authorities on astrology, hold with regard to the star that is called Andromeda. And he writes out Andromeda in Arabic letters. It's not a translation, it's just a transcription. And it is said to be a star from the new throne by the name of Kaf al-Khadib. And then Al-Kindi adds, in my view, it is Al-Khatib. He's making a sort of a correction or emendation of his own. And not that I know of which star that would be. And we found it to be precisely in the year, and then in Mahdi's text, the year is illegible, there's nothing there. But he gives the longitude, 90 degrees Aries. He gives northern latitude, which is obvious if it's in Cassiopea, but he doesn't give any number, and third magnitude. It is said when it aligns with Mercury and the moon, it is one of the laudable moments when one may expect prayer to be answered and good health for the body. So we have here the star called Kaf al-Khadib, some imprecision or confusion with regard to its identification. We have its properties being assigned not to its culmination, but to its alignment with Mercury and the moon. And we have here the two issues, the two defined points that were mentioned by Ibn Sal. One, that one may expect prayer to be answered, and the other, that it's for good health. Remember, Ibn Sal mentioned in the name of Ibn Ezra that medication given at this moment of the culmination would be effective. Well, when I first came across this, I wrote a letter to Professor Paul Kunitz, the world's leading expert in Arabic star names, and got a very long reply, which basically tells me that there's a lot more to be done in identifying these stars precisely. Professor Kunitz may have published some more material on the identification, which I haven't, unfortunately, had a chance to see yet. But let me just sort of give a sort of an intermediate summary as to where these things stand now. We saw that Al-Kindi called this star Andromeda, and he gives it the name Kaf, which means hand. Now, in Ptolemy's catalog, the star called Omicron Andromeda is called the star in advance of the three in the right hand, but its longitude doesn't match the data given by Al-Kindi. Its longitude is Pisces, 11 degrees and 40 minutes. Moreover, Al-Kindi, in one of the manuscripts that I have found that supplement or add to what Mahdi's text reports, we have a date of 245 Hijra. Now, the only other candidate that I can think of, so the candidates from Al-Kindi would be either Alpha Andromeda, Omicron Andromeda, or because he mentions Andromeda, or Beta Cassiopea, which is what we've been saying all along is the identification of the star. And even though Al-Kindi says that it's in Andromeda, when we look at the longitude that he gives, 90 degrees Aries, and we compute far precession for the roughly 700 years that separate Al-Kindi from Ptolemy, and using precession of about 64 degrees per year, which is reasonable for the astronomers at the time, the only star that matches is Beta Cassiopea. So he must be talking about Beta Cassiopea, but perhaps he had placed it in Andromeda, and we saw from the slide and from the Wikipedia that the constellations border one and the other, and at some time the early Arabs would have put them all in this asterism they call Thuraya. So the names are not that critical here, but fortunately we have the data, the date and the longitude, which match this to Ptolemy's Beta Cassiopea. Now, Beta Cassiopea is described significance for prayer by Al-Kindi, who transmits early materials. As I said, he does not mention culmination. Now, I also know I haven't talked about this yet, but there is a difference in Arabic between saying Al-Kaf al-Khadib, giving Kaf the definite article, and Kaf al-Khadib, having just a construct formation between Kaf and al-Khadib. Al-Kindi speaks of Kaf al-Khadib, the hand of Cassiopea, which is not necessarily a specific star. if Khadib is an asterism, and it has various parts to it, including one that's called the hand, that hand could itself be made up of a number of stars. Whereas Al-Kaf al-Khadib, with a definite article on both words, would be one specific star. Therefore, again, this allows us to say that the Al-Kindi has got some, I wouldn't say it's not confusion, some earlier traditions for the naming and grouping of the asterisms, but that the specific star we're talking about, must be Al-Kaf al-Khadib, Beta Cassiopea. But curiously, around the same time that Beta Cassiopea began to be used by some Islamic astronomers for timekeeping, as David King has pointed out, and he has some astronomical reasons for this, but it's still curious that of all the stars, this is the one that he's found the most evidence having been selected to draw up tables for its culmination. And it's curious that it happens at the same time and it's in the same place, particularly Iran in the 18th century, and then probably transmitted by Iranians to Istanbul. At the same time, these traditions reemerge of its significance for prayer. What can we make of all of this? Well, I can only leave you with one small speculation. At the end of the 16th century, it was Tycho's new star, this supernova, this huge supernova, in the area of Cassiopea, exploded. And this drew a lot of attention around the world and had, of course, religious significance. When a great event, unusual event happens in the heavens, we are sure this means a lot, has a lot of significance for those of us earthlings. And I'm just wondering, and word of it came to the Islamic world as well. The Islamic world they were astronomers there who you couldn't miss this event. And I'm just wondering if somehow the buzz that was caused by Tycho's new star had caused people to, see what does this mean, and go back to their books and perhaps find Al-Kindi or some other source and speculate or revive these notions of its special significance, and again reconnect to the ancient traditions. So, as usual in project of this sort, we can only end with a question. As Karl Popper once said, every statement should end with a question mark. Thank you very much.